Welcome to the FCAD Studio 1900 for another edition of Mike on the Mic. I am Mike Ross, and I, along with our producer, David Mackley, a.k.a. Bosco, interview local movers, shakers, and policymakers about issues that matter to all of us, or at least most of us. And nothing is off limit. I always say that, but some things are. I'm looking forward to today's edition, but before we meet today's guest, I'm pleased to announce that we have a sponsor. Our only, by the way, we're looking for sponsors, okay? But we love the fact that we have Blue Ridge Risk Partners as our sponsor, and Jeb Keller specifically is our guy, and we're celebrating our 40th anniversary at FCADC this year, and Blue Ridge Risk Partners and their predecessors, going back to Craig Friedley Insurance in Waynesboro, have been insuring us for the last 40 years. Jeb's a good guy, and you should call him if you want to have risk. Now, here's what, Bosco, to that point, when you think of insurance, who do you think about?
Blue Ridge Risk Partners.
Yes, you do. And from captive insurance and alternative risk solutions for your business to health insurance for your family, Blue Ridge Risk Partners offers the products, expertise, and service of a top 10 insurance agency here in Franklin County. I always say that. You got to shoot for number one. This idea of being in the top 10 is like saying we're one of 300 insurance agencies. Call us. We want you to be number one, okay? At Meritus, you want to be number one, right?
Absolutely.
You don't want to be top 10. I mean, maybe you do in the country, but right here in Washington County, you want to be number one. As Blue Ridge Risk Partners wants to be number one in your heart and in your insurance life here in Franklin County. So give Jeb a call. So with that, how about that for a commercial? So with that, I am very excited today because we have two folks here who are changing our lives here in the Cumberland Valley, and they're changing it through the Meritus School for Osteopathic Medicine, and I am excited to have my friend Dr. Maulik Joshi, who is the president and CEO of Meritus Health Systems, and Dr. Brian Kessler, who is the dean of the Meritus School for Osteopathic Medicine. So, gentlemen, thank you both for being here today.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate it.
Absolutely, Mike.
No. So we're going to start, Maulik. Again, no disrespect, but I want to. We're going to put you to the side right now.
Absolutely.
But you're going to come back. Don't. You're not going anywhere. But I do want to talk to Dr. Kessler. This is the first time we've had you here. You're new to the area, and as dean of the medical school, we want to learn more about you and what's taking place. So before we start on the school, tell us about you. Where are you from?
Well, thanks, Mike. And you can start by just call me Brian. There's no pretense here with Dr. Kessler. But so, Mike, I grew up in Delaware. You probably don't have a lot of people that grew up in Delaware.
See, and I'll tell you what. I don't even want Delaware to be a state.
Well,
It's only 3 counties, man.
you know what? We'll go off Mike and sometimes argue that. But you know what? Finished out high school in Pennsylvania. So
There you go.
And so I have, a lot of Pennsylvania roots. Went to high school in Altoona.
Okay.
And families from Western PA.
Where at in Western PA?
So my parents grew up in Latrobe, Greensburg area.
Okay.
And a lot of people outside of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, my wife is from the Johnstown area,
I know it very well. So
that's good. So so you went from Delaware to Altoona?
yeah. So my father was an educator.
Okay.
He was really started out as a psychologist, and as educators and military folks, and thanks to them for their service, but tend up moving all over the place. And so we went where my father went. So my father moved from with my brother and my mom and us from Delaware to Pennsylvania, and then from Pennsylvania to several other states. So it brought us up to central Pennsylvania. So I went to high school in Altoona, and then went to college in Latrobe at St. Vincent.
Okay.
And then went up to med school up in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Oh, good. Are you at
Lake Erie?
Lake Erie, yeah. Okay.
And you should note that you were the second class there.
Yeah, so I was the second graduating class, so very similar to our new venture here at Meritus. I have the privilege of being the dean here, and we have our inaugural class now, but it's really neat to be part of something new.
Well, that's great. So to experience it twice, both as a student and as the dean of a, that's really a unique
Absolutely.
situation.
Yeah.
So what did you do growing up? What were your interests?
So played sports,
Okay.
but probably anybody around me would probably say that I was more of a nerd. Did some of the academic stuff, speech, debate, moot court, a lot of science, but was in love with soccer. Played soccer from kindergarten all the way up through high school. Really wanting to play collegiate until I got injured, and so that kind of made a little bit of a change with that. But played sports in college as well, but ended up going through biology and then ended up in med school.
So was it the biology that sparked your interest in medicine, or what did that? What did you do?
It's one of these things. I think when you go through school and things like that, you want to make something of yourself. So it was either, med school or law school. Had to pick one. Really liked the arts and humanities, but, there was something that always resonated with biology. And so ended up getting into med school and, history after that.
Well, no, that's fascinating to me. Was there like a particular teacher or mentor that would have outside of your family, or did it just kind of?
I don't know that there really was. I was really fortunate. So as I said, my father was a psychologist, but my mom's a nurse. And so, when you look at from nursing and things, I think that was probably one of the biggest influence. But, growing up for me, family was probably the biggest influence because they always expected us to succeed, but they never really forced us to do
Do you have
anything.
siblings?
I do. I have a younger brother.
And what the?
So he is very accomplished, has a computing background, but is now a master craftsman and carpenter. So at a cabinetry shop here in Pennsylvania.
Well, I'll tell you what, he made a good choice too,
Absolutely.
because those folks are in demand.
Well, and I will tell you, he's wicked smart, and is one of these people. I'm blessed to have a younger brother that keeps me in check.
So if for computing, it's always interesting because the question when you have the math classes, when am I ever going to use that? If you are in construction, you're using it every day.
At the drop of a hat.
Yep.
So to be able to calculate that and without using any other tools and things is pretty phenomenal.
It is. So before we get too deep into this, and I always have to ask this question because I go sideways. What's the most underappreciated band in the history?
We had this debate, and so
I'm coming back to you on this too.
Well, and I'm sure Maulik will have different opinions on this. So I really wrestled with this, and for me, from a genre perspective, I'm an '80s kid.
Okay.
So as I started to think through, you went through different bands, but the one that I kept coming back to was the Pixies.
Okay.
And so I'm pretty happy about that. Now, I debated whether or not REM, but they're already in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, they were pretty
So I would say Pixies, because if you look at their influence, and a lot of other bands like Nirvana and other things will actually say that they had some influence.
That's good. Yeah, I think REM always wanted to portray themselves as being underappreciated, but they would. I think they built a pretty good following.
Yeah, so we debated this.
So what's yours?
This is a great question because I think I would think about the ones like REM that are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I couldn't come up with a good one. I mean,
but you can be to that point, though, and I'll back up. I think I thought REM had a good run there for a while, but you can be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and still be underappreciated.
Oh, absolutely. You look at and again, '80s kid, The Cure. That's one of them. Now, there's a whole different genre out there, and I'm not sure the listeners would agree, but Jane's Addiction. So there are some bands out there.
This is impressive. This is impressive here.
So
we bring our whole game to
Yeah.
Meritus. I mean, sports.
This is good. See, that you can people going in for surgery. You can talk to them about it.
no doubt.
Get
So
them relaxed.
these are
There
those
you
little
go.
things that you don't tell other people, that you have that secret
Yeah,
knowledge about.
that's good.
I've really enjoyed AC/DC later in my life.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
I think they're just amazing in some of their stuff, but that's later.
No, and Angus Young, they had an older brother who performed back in the early '70s and whatever, and I think went on to be a producer more than.
Really?
I think he started in the band, but then became a producer. Yeah, but they had a pretty good run too.
But
I think they're still running.
They're still
But even
running.
bands like if you look at CCR, like Creedence, in terms of some of the things, and so what you grow up around, And moving, growing up in Delaware and then coming up to Pennsylvania and living, with family and things like that, you could talk about all
So
different
George
genres.
Thorogood on your list?
Yeah,
The Delaware Destroyers.
Yes. But that's a great thing about music. It's so eclectic.
No, excuse me. I agree as I take a drink. No, I would agree with that. And but see, for me, I'm a little head. No. One of the most underappreciated bands is the Monkees, and who should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And they were far more accomplished as musicians but the way they got created, and they got created specifically for TV. But they were far better. Their music was far better, but anyway, they and at one point they were appreciated because they were selling, other than the Beatles, they were selling more records than anybody.
So you would say the whole thing about the Partridge Family too?
No, well, David Cassidy had a real career
He
there
did.
too. And then if you're a '70s kid, you watched the Partridge Family.
Absolutely.
And you watch it more for Susan Day than you did for David Cassidy if you're a man. So, but anyway, so, you wanted to be part of the Partridge Family, or at least know the Partridge Family. But anyway, those were days gone by. But no, I thought, and the band who I think should be, I always go back to this, that should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a couple of them, other than the Monkees. Three Dog Night should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Tommy James and the Shondells should be in the Grand Funk Railroad should be in the. I mean, there's a whole host of bands that somehow got pushed aside for people like Dolly Parton to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. No disrespect, Dolly Parton, I think, is one of the great entertainers of all time, and she's in the Country Music Hall of Fame where she should be, and even she acknowledged she shouldn't be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but and then we'll switch off of it. But the two folks who may be the two best entrepreneurs, Dolly Parton and Taylor Swift,
Yeah.
that they own themselves and they built their careers the way, and incredibly good business ladies. But anyway, we will shift off it. We'll never talk about the medical school.
Well,
Go ahead.
well, I was going to say, when we're offline and things like that, there is a family connection with Tommy James. So
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
You in the mafia?
No, but I'm not sure that your listeners would appreciate that. But a distant cousin of my father's was with Tommy James when it was original.
Really? We will have that conversation. So, you told us where you went to medical. So you're up at Lake Erie.
Correct.
And you had to adjust to those winters.
It's a little bit of change, but then when you go from Erie, Pennsylvania to Cleveland, Ohio,
No change.
absolutely.
So-
So it was a lot of conditioning.
So what was your specialty as a practicing physician?
So I'm a family physician.
Okay.
And so really, anything from birth to death, and, really appreciated that. I have my wife's also a family physician, so
Okay.
I met her in medical school when we were both medical students. So I tell anybody, if you like me as a physician, you will love her as
Is she practicing locally now?
No, she's still down south,
Okay.
has her own practice and things like that. We're blessed with 3 children, so she's still being mom, physician, and everything else, when dad's out working.
Not that she's not working. She's working
She's
like
working
24/7.
She works twice, if not 3 times as hard as I do.
No, but no, I think so. With the medical school, given your background, that family practice, and I think and I'll ask you, Maulik, that seems to be a need not only at Meritus but across Washington County and beyond.
Throughout the whole United States, we need more primary care. Family medicine physicians, internists, pediatricians, you name it. It's not going away anytime soon.
No, so I think to have that, you having that background and that focus.
Absolutely. Primary care for a lot of people, they may not know who or what these individuals, do for them in terms of their own relationship. That was something that was very special, to build bonds with patients. In all the years, I have had the privilege of leading national organizations for primary care and family physicians, and I can tell you, I am so fortunate that a lot of people in my leadership teams who I've surrounded myself are in primary care, family medicine in particular. So it's great. I think, as to Maulik's point, we couldn't produce enough family physician, primary care physicians, and that's inclusive of pediatricians, internal medicine, OBGYNs, any of those individuals, even to the point we're looking at general surgery as a need. So, and I think that's what was really attractive coming to this area and figuring out the school's mission and really putting, community first and trying to produce really good physicians, not only primary care physicians, but we also need some of the specialty care as well.
So you were in the second class at Lake Erie.
I was.
And now you're starting a school here. What are the changes that you would see when you were a student compared to what you're putting in place today?
Well, it's funny. We were listening to and trying to, think about that. When I went to med school, I had to wear a shirt and tie. I had mandatory attendance. So the dress code's a little bit different. I don't know if that was intentional or purposeful, but, the volume of information, even though diseases haven't really changed a lot, it's how we approach disease and the information that's presented to us. And I think from students, it's trying to put all that information in 4 years, trying to produce individuals that can go out to be competent physicians. So it's time management. There's a lot to do, and really the choice out there for individuals to pick a type of practice that they want to be for the rest of their life. The volume's there, the information's there, but the way that you acquire that knowledge too, the internet, we're not going to books and things where you can have that information at your fingertips almost instantaneously has really changed.
To that point, for both of you, how do you see AI impacting not only the schooling, but the practice of medicine?
I think it's that information at your fingertips. I think it's understanding where AI's presence is. It's a tool. It's a tool that needs to be used appropriately. You still have to have a baseline knowledge. It's like anything else. In machines or anything, you can use them for good or you could use them for harm. And I think AI is one of those things that I think it's going to help us be better physicians, better patients, better individuals. But again, it's a tool that we have to use and be able to put guide rails and guardrails around.
Absolutely, it's a tool. And so, as I think we spoke before, when you come to a Meritus doctor today, you put your phone down in the between, and it just records everything and documents your note. Whereas then the doctor can talk to the patient face to face and have the real interaction. That's a great use of the tool, right? It's not replacing anyone. It's just actually making the doctor's life easier. They still have to go in and edit and everything, but it makes it a lot easier to jumpstart. So we're going to see more of that. Right now, also in our urgent care, we use AI to read x-rays first.
Okay.
You come to urgent care, it's hard to find radiologists, and think about 9 at night, you're going to get AI at least to give you a quick read and say, it is broken or it's not. We'll call you in the morning after a radiologist reviews it overnight. That's a great use versus just sitting there and not knowing, right?
No, that is. And I mean, there's been reports that AI can essentially, in some ways, be more effective than and I don't know if that's true. I think if you talk to radiologists, they're going to tell you it's not true.
We're not looking to replace.
But I think to your point, but there is an effective way to use it.
Absolutely.
I would agree. The only thing that I will tell you that AI doesn't have yet is empathy. It doesn't have that type of where I, as a physician, can sit down and have that empathy, have that emotional intelligence. It may be able to talk to you about it, but the difference in terms of me sitting here in front of you, having that human touch and being able to incorporate that, I think that's where it's going to help us be more informed, but it doesn't replace us.
No, I would agree. I mean, it's just going to, AI is just going to give you a read or whatever you want to do. But there is no empathy. So, I want to switch a little bit here as well. What caused your interest in Meritus? What caused you to how'd you find out about this position, and what caused you to apply for it?
So how long time do we have? So
Much as you want.
No, part of this is it's really attraction in terms of a medical school within a health system. We are an academic teaching center, and I think that's something that I talked with the whole leadership team. What attracted me over the years is, as I practiced as a family doc, one thing that I missed is being really associated with a health system. And the fact that we have a health system and a medical school that I can walk out the back door, really into the back door of the hospital, is really a game changer. And the fact that we are community obsessed, we are focused on the community, that the mission resonates with really the ideals of osteopathic medicine, looking at the individual, how we treat the individual, and really looking at the community. For me, it was a game changer. I didn't need to leave the place that I was at. I was happy. But this gave me an opportunity to kind of be a part of something new that I think, like you had even talked when we were discussing before we got on, is the impact on the communities and the surrounding communities. That's really transformational.
I have to tell you, so when we first started talking about the medical school, our colleagues said, hey, we should reach out to Brian Kessler. He's a dean in North Carolina, no joke, didn't know him. And we just had a call with him just to throw out the idea. Hey, we're thinking about a medical school. What do you think? And he gave us like 15 minutes of wisdom. Years later, I gave him a call and said, hey, you want to come here?
And my wife, it was funny, I think most of us in terms of relationships and things, there's always somebody guiding you. My wife's like, why not? Let's do this. So, and I'm not looking back. It's just been a great move. I walked into a great group of educators and phenomenal students. And I really think they're going to be game changers.
No, that's great. And Maulik, I mean, we talked about it when you were with us prior, but I think your vision on for the school itself and the impact, not only obviously for Meritus and specifically in Washington County, but for the region. And one of the things that's stuck with me is, this first class of 90 students, and I think the number used at the time said we've invested $250 million, hoping we can keep 10% of them here. So it's $250 million for 9 doctors, but those 9 doctors become the foundation, and hopefully it's more than that, but they become the foundation, and they recruit for the future classes, and ideally we strengthen the regional economy. But so I mean, I got to tell you, I mean, what you're doing, and I don't say this to be patronizing at all. It's just, I think it's the most impactful investment that's been made in our valley since I've been here, really.
I've said it before, with everything we have going on, all the good, Franklin County, Washington, the whole region, it's generational change.
It really
and this
is.
med school is going to be a key part of that.
Yes.
It's generational change. The other thing, by the way, again, in Maryland at least, there's only 3 academic health systems in the state of Maryland. A hospital, a trauma hospital with a medical school. Johns Hopkins, University of Maryland, and Meritus. That's right. Nobody probably thinks about that third. And you think about it in Pennsylvania, you got Penn, you got UMC and others. But that's a big deal.
No, it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. And I think, and to that point, and the two of you can talk about it. And Maulik, I know this was your vision and your board's vision to support you. But what does it take to build a medical school?
Well, I have to say, I'm sitting next to the individual that was part of it. You have to have a visionary to do it, because I think in this day and age, it sounds neat to build a medical school, but it's just not something that you wake up one night and say, hey, I'm going to build a medical school. I think it's the engaged, it's part of the community, it's part of the individuals. Like you said, it's the board, it's the leadership. Then, it's trying to find engaged faculty, somebody that wants to have the opportunity to build something, somebody that wants to see the creation and that transformation, and then getting the support staff, let alone investing the multi-millions in terms of a building. And then what it is then attracting the students. And
so to that point, how do you do that? Because you're brand new and you're competing with the University of Pennsylvania and Penn State and Pitt and University Johns Hopkins and the like. How do you say, hey, look, we're starting this new school, and you've never heard of Meritus?
I'll set Brian up, but let me just give you the stats on this. So last year we had 1,200 applications for the 90 students. This coming year in July, we have had 3,100 applications for 140 students.
Wow.
So how do we do that?
And it's really interesting, even getting applicants locally, but we're also attracting applicants nationally. So, as far west, California, Florida, Ohio. But, I think, again, it goes back to mission. When you talked about individuals coming to the area, they resonate with the mission. They resonate with the area. The fact that we are in a setting that is very similar to where they grew up, but it's also in proximity of other areas that students are attracted to it, that you can get to metropolitan areas. But I think it's the rural atmosphere, it's the demographics, it's the individuals. I think the fact that we are an academic teaching center is attractive. The fact that we're building residency training programs for the physicians, family medicine, internal medicine, psychiatry, these are really attractive to students when they look at, competitive medical schools.
That is a big piece. We always tell the potential students, look across the parking lot. There's a hospital there. You don't get that at a lot of medical schools. That connection and then the community connection. You want to mention what they do in their orientation week with the service?
So we have partnerships within the community with service organizations. So we break the individuals out into groups, and they will be going out to different service community organizations. And the great thing about that is the partners that we have, it just doesn't stop there. The students now, as the inaugural class, are building those continuous relationships. And those are actually building more relationships. So in terms of that partnership, whether it's looking at, our food pharmacy and, looking at some of the educational units in terms of the elementary schools, some of the care clinics and things, I think our students are really looking for that opportunity because they have that servant heart. And for us, that again allows the community to also influence really that what we would consider physician identity formation. How do you become a good physician? It's by, interacting with others, and that's really from that community service.
So what has been the student feedback so far? You're in the midst of your first class, and there's obviously parts of this they're going to say, man, we love what you're doing here, but you need to improve over here.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, the students want information as quick as they can get it, and so it's really dealing with different learning platforms. Students want taped lectures. Students want feedback. They want to go back into their apartment and be able to watch or rewatch a lecture in 2 times speed or in half speed, and really to kind of get that content. So I think it's really that inaugural class is really how you deliver lectures, how they get that information. Work-time balance, we talk about, physician burnout, but we were really purposeful in making sure that there is a work-life balance. And I say work-life because going to med school is like going to a job.
It might be harder than going to a job.
Well, and a lot of people is because it's typically, 8 to 10 hour day, 5 days a week. So we purposely build in something that we call green time. So it's this downtime that students can have some decompression, being involved in, sports activity, community events. If you get a chance or people come by and things like it, we have a great student housing there that was very purposeful and intentional because it built community, really a community within the community. And so it allowed a learning space. So the students outside of that, they not only can study there, but I think they can have that socialization that's really needed that you see in other campuses. But, again, I think as students look at it, it's always things, well, I'd like a lecture delivered this way. I would like the option not to come to class, so it's even the things that I have discussions with my own children about, what they expect in terms of education. But again, I think we have a construct there that, it'll get to change. It'll start to change, and they will influence. But I think we really started with a phenomenal footprint.
So has it been, in addition to attracting students, has it been difficult attracting instructors?
So this is a great thing. Again, where Hagerstown is located, a lot of people want to come to this area. I will tell you the hardest thing is sometimes attracting their significant other.
Right.
And that's really it's for everyone. And it's not only the medical industry. You could pretty much have anybody here and talk about
to be very candid about it. I mean, you'll have a lot. I think it's the proximity to DC and especially Frederick, where folks can, there's going to be more spousal opportunities in the Beltway than there are over here. And that, not that there aren't any over here, but oftentimes I think it's when you'll see, and I don't know if when you try to recruit husband and wife teams.
We will do it. I mean, we always have jobs available, right? Everybody does.
But I think but if you don't have that opportunity, I think, living sometimes becomes driven toward Frederick because it's, you can, and if you're going to the Beltway, it's kind of an equal commute for both partners.
But I think, as you know, the medical school is an incredible attraction for
Yeah.
physicians that we recruit. We just recruited a neurosurgeon. In his first week, he came over to the medical school to say, "Can I be part of the interview process? Can I do?" I mean, they want to engage. They want to
great.
pay it forward. He just came out of fellowship, so you find that, which is a great attraction.
No, I would think that it is. But I think that to that point, I just, you're doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing to attract folks. And, but to that point, does housing become an issue? I mean, for a physician, not so much. But by the way, before we go to that, think about it. Tell everybody exactly where the medical school is, because I want to encourage folks to, if you're out on a Saturday afternoon or Sunday, you need to drive down and see the medical school, because we're talking about, you're going to say, well, I've been to Hagerstown, I've never seen the medical school. Yeah, it's absolutely impressive. The housing is impressive, and what you've done there, if I recall, is you were specific about the housing to make sure the students did get engaged in the
Absolutely.
community.
Yeah, so the DM Bowman Academic Hall, which is home to the medical school, is 200,000 square feet, 5 floors, 1 year old. They should also reach out if you want to come and check out our virtual anatomy and try the goggles and everything. We'll do that. We want people to be a part of this. And then the Meritus Commons. So we're finishing the last 2 buildings this summer. We will have 340 fully furnished apartments, washer, dryer, kitchen, everything, with a clubhouse and a pickleball court. And so we have enough for the first 2 years, and we're excited about it.
And if you don't have the opportunity to drive down there, go on the website and just look at it and see. And if you're not impressed, then you're not able to be impressed.
As Brian said, so a couple of our students I've talked to have said, we've been the kings and queens of this commons housing. Now we realize next year other people are going to be here, and they're kind of like now realizing, oh, I have to share this place, because it's been great for them so far.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the other things, the building of the medical school was also intentional, because the first floor actually has really a community presence. So with the whole first floor, we've actually had community events.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get a chance and things when we have different community events, we'd love to have you there as well. If you look up Meritus Health, the medical school is right on the campus there, so you can't miss it.
Mm-hmm.
And it fits so well within that entire campus that I think that's one of our biggest attractions.
Mike, I know we may need a future podcast, but we're not done, right? We've got more to come down
No,
there.
so tell us about the more to come.
Well, so we have a whole floor shelved out in the academic space. So 40,000 square feet for the next health professions program or degree or so. So we're working through that. I'll let Brian talk about that. Secondly, our students, even though they're so engaged in the community, they also do a lot of research. Mm-hmm. And so we're trying to think about what's the next thing to get them really engaged in research as a community. So we have got some ideas on that. But if you want to talk about the health profession.
Yeah, so the great thing about this area is there are a lot of individuals in universities, community colleges, and things that are doing health professions really well. But I think part of this is how we partner with them, but also look at some of the gap analysis. What's happening in terms of health professions, whether it's physician assistants, occupational therapy, physical therapy. We started a psychiatric residency. So looking at these different professions, but also leveraging with the partnerships so that you can figure out what the community needs. So again, as we look and we continue to grow, we're actually looking at, really becoming this health science university. And that becomes that continuum, whether it's medical school or another health discipline. I think that's where, in terms of the direction of the board and Maulik and others, that we're starting to look at where we're at today, but what happens 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road? Because that, again, for the community, for Hagerstown and the surrounding areas, the counties and things, to say, hey, we have a local medical school. How are they training other health disciplines? And that's where our partnerships. We've already leveraged partnerships with some of the health, really the allied health professions in the areas to really become interprofessional. So I'm really excited about that.
So as you're going through this process, and you've set up benchmark, so how do you measure success that you are, as you're progressing, you're hitting those benchmarks and you're where you want to be?
So for the medical school, passing their first exams, which happens at the end of year 2,
Okay.
and then being placed in residency, right? That's a big deal for us.
Yeah, so really from a medical student, when they grow out, we get them prepared to go into residency. And again, we're very fortunate that we have residency programs already built into the medical system. Family medicine, we have psychiatry, as I've said. We are starting a
Those are
general.
two big needs.
Absolutely. General surgery. We are working on internal medicine that's coming through, and then we are working on putting in for emergency medicine. So there alone are several residencies that are students, but I will tell you really, if you're going to ask me where the proof is when these individuals go through residency and they start practicing in the area. And you may not see that instantaneously because the fact that they have to go anywhere from after med school 3 to 7 years of training. So it's typically about 5 years out where we'll really see the impact of those graduating class. Well, they'll start to say, hey, I'm going to hang my shingle here. And then you can say when they walk in, I'm a Meritus trained physician and I'm here to help you. And I think that's where you and really a lot of people you identify with a physician is these are some of the people that you trust everything to. And that's really what we want. The proof is to have the students that graduate from Meritus School of Osteopathic Medicine practicing in the area. And I couldn't be more proud of that. And that's what I want to see.
No, what comes across, and I can understand why you want, Brian, your passion for what you do is really, it comes out loud and clear. And I think that will drive the success of the school and the success of your faculty and your students, because that is great. So has there been anything so far as you're getting this up and right? Is there anything that surprised you that you didn't expect, in good or bad? You know what?
From a good point, what I think really exceeded my expectations is how much support. I thought that, I was going in a good situation, but this is a great situation. When you have people that are all in and ready to do this, that's unprecedented. How often do you get a place where you can start a medical school and says, look, we're intentional and purposeful, and we're not stopping here. We're taking it to the next level. And I think the students see that. The faculty definitely see that. And I can tell you as an administrator, I would put my team and my students up against anybody. So that's something to be proud about. So is it unexpected? I don't know. Is it surprising? Absolutely. And it's a happy surprise.
I love the fact just in this first year, we're seeing what we wanted. Students are going to play trivia. They're going to restaurants. They're playing soccer. They're going to play pickleball. They're volunteering at Meritus to do various things. I mean, that's exactly what we wanted, and it's happening. And people say to me, oh, I saw your student out here. I saw them there. It feels good to know that they're out exactly where we want in our region. You have to feel good about where everything is. And again, I don't say this to be patriot. Your leadership has been remarkable. It's a team game. I appreciate that. I understand that. I understand. But it was one of the and it's interesting. You have certain things that look back. And I get over the years, I've had a chance to be at a lot of different things. The one that sticks in my mind a lot was you invited me down as part of a community gathering at St. James, where you announced the accreditation and so on. But to see your board and to see this is really it is a team effort. But I think that what you've been able to do in such a short period of time to bring everybody on board. And again, it is transformational, and I have the greatest respect for what both of you are doing. Brian, it's been a real pleasure to get to meet you, and I'm hopeful of seeing you a lot more often. And Maulik, I think, and I thank you for what you're doing. And by the way, I mention to people up here all the time, I say, what they're doing down there, they have this food pharmacy. But what impressed me the most is this notion we do things because we need to do things for the betterment of the community. And I think you mentioned healthcare, 25% of what we do. That's right. Community support is 75% of what we do. And that comes through loud. By the way, we're up to 11 vans now in our van trip, and one dedicated to Brooklyn and mental health. But that mental behavioral health, that's a national need as well.
No doubt.
So, and there's lots of folks. And again, I think the good news is I think we've grown public acceptance that mental health is you're not stigmatized if you're suffering from mental. You got to be treated, and lots of folks are being treated, and there's no stigma that goes along with that. So, now I have to ask you: you a fan of the Pit?
You know, I am going to be embarrassed that I have not watched it.
Have you
I
watched
haven't
it?
either.
Oh, you
No.
have to watch it, seriously.
Yeah.
It is really, by all accounts, and having talked to doctors, it's the most realistic emergency room show that they have watched.
Why watch it when you're living it?
Well, I know you probably
We have
you
our
probably-
pit.
Yeah, you probably- I get these calls every day. Really? I don't need to watch more. Anyway, for the lay people out there, it is really it's an interesting show, and I think it brings to light the challenges of emergency medicine in particular. But man, you did it, and I know you guys have seen it, but you deal with everything, and you talk about books that can be written. Man, you would die before you run out of stories. But anyway, I'm looking up. We've run out of time. I want to thank both of you for being here, and again, the passion and the commitment that you both bring to what you're doing and working as a team. Brian, we're glad to have you as part of the greater community. Maulik, I mean, you are embedded in the community, and we want to keep you embedded in the community. And thank you both for what you're doing, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for acknowledging Michigan winning the college basketball.
You know what? I didn't know. Hang on, Bosco. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. Now, this guy had a. You know, he is,
I'm not getting in the middle of this at all.
He's gloating over Michigan, and they were the best.
It's a much better title than when Ramil Robinson won it 37 years
Yeah,
ago.
I
So
mean, every so you'll be like 99 when the next time they win it. So, but anyway, every 37 years, Michigan's going to win one. So, but they had a good team this year. They had a really good team. Although I predicted Purdue to win the whole thing, and going into the tournament, and Purdue disappointed me. I don't know why I picked Purdue.
but it's just
who
like
cares
anything.
about
Coaching
Purdue?
matters, right? Leadership matters.
Yep, it does matter.
It does matter.
You know, in all seriousness, and this will be blasphemous too. So when you look at the Big Ten, and I've had a chance to affiliate now. I'm not a Penn State grad, but I've spent a lot of time with Penn State, and the institution, the public institution within the Big Ten that they want to be most like is Michigan.
Really?
Yeah, I think Michigan, and I say this because I think they have the reputation for having really elevated both academics and athletics at a very high level. I mean, other schools have done one or the other, but I think Michigan has done them both at a very, very high level, and I think that's the kind of, and from my perspective, the envy of the Big Ten. So now I talked to now somebody from Penn State came Michigan be like Penn State. I don't think so.
I appreciate allowing me to get
No,
that in
no,
before you.
you're welcome. You're welcome. And the fact that you were a Newhart fan and somehow have an affection for Vermont now. Anyway, and we can have that Delaware conversation.
Absolutely.
See, here's the deal, okay? Delaware should have been part of Pennsylvania, founded by the same guy, okay? Would have given us shore points. We instead of 67 counties, we'd have 70. So, you know, you can't have a state with 3 counties.
Yeah, but there's something special about being the first and small and mighty.
All right, we're going to end now. All right, thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of another Mike on the Mic podcast. And I want to thank both Maulik and Brian for being my guests today. It's been a really informative and fun day. And I also want to thank our sponsor, Blue Ridge Risk Partners. It's our sponsors that make the podcast possible. If you or your business would like to be a sponsor, please reach out to our office at 717-263-8282 or contact our producer, Bosco, at david@fcadc.com. And based on the response, it appears that your line has been cut and you're offline on the internet. And don't forget to like and subscribe us on YouTube, and we will see you the next time. So thank you.